Yes, I just put up about well, today they're having, I was watching TV and they're having the FedEx bombings and tripwire bombings down in Texas. Austin is the key word there in FedEx. And I was watching TV just now, changed channels, and they had two children shot, and the shooter turned the gun on himself up in Maryland. Um, I told, and you can check on this. It's on Facebook, but really it's easier to look up YouTube. I have been putting up there about mind control murders done in patterns since before Mr. Flynn of Hustler magazine was shot in Lawrenceville while I was doing the book in Marietta, Georgia, 1978. I was in a political campaign and flown out to Mr. Flynn's, and he wrote me up in an editorial, a nice one of Hustler, April the 4th of '84, saying I knew who was responsible for his shooting. It was a Dr. Larry McDonald, congressman, U.S. congressman doctor, whose plane, he was supposed to be on the KAL that was shot down in 1983. And you get a long list of this. I'm writing about him. He's one of the cases in my book. And of course, it's unpublished because I was almost killed April Fool Day of '80. Ended up across the state line working for the district attorney. I was taken there illegally. Fred Simpson. Anyway, I didn't. That's when John Lennon was shot by Mark David Chapman, and yes, there are patterns involved. I've been putting it up, but now with the Parkland, I'm just going to skip on here to Parkland in Florida. It's associated with Parkland in Dallas, where John Kennedy was taken in when he was shot. And it's associated with a doctor there, Gonzalez, that was the intern at the emergency room. And then he went to a Redstone Arsenal Army Hospital. And then he was employed by Parkwood, Cliff Valley Way in Atlanta. These are mental health facilities that have grown quite large. But there's other connections there to where he was and the time period and all that. But I wanted to get back to this, not get lost in in this trying to tell it. I told the other day when the Parkland went up in Florida that this should be the end of the school shootings and that mind control they can use a knife or anything. You can mess, and they have armies. Now it's gotten so widespread. But really, here's what I want to say about this. I said that about 2 weeks ago, I believe, on or this last month on YouTube, that should be the end of it there. And then you had the bombing start. The Unabomber. I was trying to think about his name, and if I'm rambling, you can put it together, because I've lived it. Unabomber had just done he's programmed. He's really a victim himself. But I was having to live on the Appalachian Trail, and this is where I'm trying to get to this Eric Rudolph, who was charged with the Olympic Park bombing in Atlanta. He actually lived in the woods hiding out from, they were looking for him, the ATF and the FBI. And I actually met him. I was living on the Appalachian Trail just to simply have a place to live because I'd been shut down because I did the book. And because of who I am, I found out in 1983 about my kidnapping after I was in that campaign out at Mr. Flint's. So that's the real reason. But anyway, the bombings, I said that the bombings had started and they would probably shut down the school shootings. Well, they still had one today, but it was just two. I mean, that's enough. I don't mean just, but you get the drift. And the shooters are programmed to shoot themselves, like Blacksburg, Virginia Tech. The shooter shot the .32 and turned the gun on himself and killed himself. And like the Grand Theater, they're blaming it on mental illness. I have to ask where all the doctors are in this, where all the people around me here know the truth. In Huntsville, Alabama, in Atlanta, Georgia, all these years, the media has always known the truth. Mind control is being used in it. And none of the media is going to talk about it. But anyway, I am sounding rambling because I'm tired and some things going on here, and I'm having to move, get my things together and move. But I wanted to emphasize this. The name Murphy is in North Carolina, where Eric Rudolph was finally arrested. He's a victim. He's in federal prison for the bombings. Richard Jewell was arrested for the bombings at first. His attorney was Lynn Wood. Lynn Wood is also the attorney for the Ramseys. And the little girl right now, her name, I can't remember, but Patsy and John were her parents, and they live in Atlanta. And I believe the little girl was buried there in Roswell. It's a suburb of Atlanta, just like Marietta is. I don't need to go in anymore. The Austin and the Parkland in Florida, as I say, fits in the pattern, and it should end. I hope so. I hope it ends and I'm still able to talk. And I tell what's been done to me, what I've told that's being done to, you all look at it. But this is the oddest thing, because of who did the crimes against me that I didn't find out about until '83 when after I was flown out, Mr. Flint's, and I'd done the book, and it got shut down. I was almost killed. People don't like for me to tell it. You have to put it on the press, the media that's controlled by the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, the people that kidnapped me and brought me over here. And my mom's an American, by the way, but people don't care to hear that. Now then, I bet you say I'm rambling, so I'm going to get off of it, but I'm going to tell you the other word in it is Murphy, North Carolina. I tried to tell everybody about, and if it's ever told, you'll understand what I mean. There was a girl named Murphy that was killed in near Charlottesville here, but she was killed. It was connected with two other murders here, and people are in prison for murders they didn't really commit. And I'm going to stop here because they were programmed. They're victims themselves. I found out nobody really appreciates, they just wish I'd disappear. Because you tell the whole mess, and that's what it is. And I'm going to say this and stop. I'm really tired right at the moment. So, okay, I can't think of his name, and I've put it up so much. The gentleman that Oklahoma City bombing, that bombed the federal building, he was put to death for that bombing. And he told everybody, and I even had a printout of that. He told everybody the U.S. Army put a chip up his buttocks, a computer chip. So that's what I've been talking about. Only I've been talking about to put them in root canals or in part of your body. But anyway, here's a young man that fought in your wars. And what did he get for it? He got put to death. That's what he got.